Hey everyone. So, okay, real quick. This is me. I work at VMware via Have2 acquisition. My GitHub, Twitter, and Slack is RDODev. That was the best way to reach out to me. So, really quick, we only have 5 minutes. The problem assignment, we want to introspect and see what's going on in our cluster. And if you want to do that in a practical way, or if you want to find meaningful information, you're going to be found with a bunch of, depending on the logging capabilities, you might find difficult to sift through all the logs that you're going to get. You might not be able to see errors, warnings, and that type of information that might lead you to whatever is the information that you're actually looking for. This is what you get. So, in the interest of time, let's focus on 3 basic areas, right? So we are going to need a basic log data gathering. We're also going to have to marshal or do some ETL with that data. And eventually, we're going to have to visualize it in order to get some form of insight. The tools at our disposal, for the sake of this talk, is going to be Jupyter Lab. This is how we're going to use the Jupyter Notebooks. The Kubernetes Python client. We're also going to need a centralized way to store data, structured data. Luckily, Python comes bundled with SQLite, which is great. You don't have to install any other server in it. It already comes bundled with it. Also, we're going to use Python string manipulation built-ins and the Pandas data manipulation library. So just to give you a real quick, so obviously, we're going to look at what go through. So we're going to simply import this that you're seeing here. This is the environment of Jupyter Notebooks. We're going to import all the libraries that we need. This is all the code that you're going to need to instantiate a connection to a SQLite database. Then you're going to see some basic instantiation of the Kubernetes client. And then we're going to, in this case, for this particular example, we're going to follow the kubeAPI server. We're going to follow the logs in a form of a stream. And then we're going to do some basic manipulation, turn it into an array and stuff. And then how did I come up with this? Literally trial and error. I started looking at the log files, their shape, and I found a way to normalize them so that way I can store them. Eventually, I'm going to turn all that, all those logs files, and I'm going to put them into SQL form into the database. Okay, so as we can see, you can have a very rudimentary, structured log collection and data collection in about 30 lines of code. And then, of course, for that to be useful or via some use, we need to have some actual data to analyze. We are then I ran a bunch of different synthetic loads, right? Like I did empty namespace thrashing. I created and deleted a bunch of them, like thousands of times. I did the same with a non-empty namespace, and I scale up and down a deployment a number of times. I generated like 122,000 lines of the ones that I care about, not just total, just the ones that I care about. As I already showed you in the last piece of code, I'm filtering for the things I'm looking for. Oops. Okay. So using that code that I just showed you, all right, so we already have that into the SQLite database, and we could query SQL if you're a DBA and you like SQL. But I personally prefer to have things in a very manipulatable, in a very programmatic way. And this is where Pandas comes in. Like it's a great library, very efficient. And this is how I'm going to show you real quick a little code of Pandas. So we're going to do basically a table data dump into Pandas. You generate the select star from the table that we just created, and then we dump it into a Pandas data frame. And we just give it some labels to the columns we want. I pick the first 2 rows just so that you see how the data will look like below that. I did Pandas offers like column filtering, and you can even do pivot things inside it without having to manipulate the underlying data, which is great if you actually need to do that. And then you can also have programmatic queries. In this case, it says, well, of all the tests that I did, I group them by test. And then I say, like, of all these things, like, which ones gave the most error? And then with these few lines of code, I was able to see that, in this case, like, the replica set thrash and the namespace thrash, where I deleted and created real quick, had the most errors, almost, in this case, over 6 times of the other 2 tests that I ran. Anyway, so I just show you Pandas. You can do basic visualizations, bars, and turns into chart. If you need something more advanced, you can use Bokeh. And just to close, Python, Jupyter, SQLite, Pandas, and Bokeh if you need a more powerful visualization. Then you can have your own full-fledged interactive Kubernetes analysis labs. Thank you.